going for 2 o'clock on Thursday, September 18th, and I have been in Zoom meetings basically all day. So I'm sorry that I'm a little late getting around to covering this issue. But yesterday there was breaking news about the ICE facility in Portland, Oregon. And I think it's news that a lot of people have been waiting for. So I know that the Oregonian covered it late in the day, but Councilor Angelita Murillo covered it first. I feel like she's been a really consistent voice about what the concerns are around the ICE facility. She's been really actively listening to constituents. She's not my counselor. She's in a different district from me, but I really appreciate her leadership on city council. And once again, I'm so grateful that the people of Portland voted to restructure our city council and expand the number of seats and have district representation. I can only imagine what things would be like in Portland in 2025 if Renee Gonzalez and Ted Wheeler were still running the show with Mingus Maps and Carmen Rubio. Anyway, okay, so let me show you a tiny bit of what Angelita said, and then I really encourage you to go watch her whole video.
Hello, Portland. It's Councilor Angelita Murillo from District 3. I just wanted to give an update on the ICE permit, as well as 3 policies that my office is working on to address how ICE is able to operate within Portland. Last you heard from me, the permitting department received complaints from community that the McAdam ICE building might be violating their land use permit, and then they had to do an investigation to find out more information. The permitting department staff were actually not allowed into the building to do any investigation. We were able to receive information because a national organization did a FOIA request that revealed that the ICE building was violating the use of their permit. Right now, the permitting department has done an investigation. They have found that there are violations of the permit, and they are sending a notice to the ICE building and to the landlord/owner of the ICE building in Portland of this violation.
Yeah, I saw this yesterday and I was like, excellent news. Now, be aware of the fact that in Portland, if somebody is found to be in violation of their permit, they have a chance to rectify the violations. A while back, I did a video response to a woman in Texas who made a video about Portland, Oregon, and got basically all of the facts wrong around shutting down the ICE facility. If someone is in violation of their permit, they don't suddenly lose access to that building. So now the folks who run that ICE building have a chance to rectify the issues and respond to the violations that have been issued. I admit that I was initially frustrated with some of the ways that people were organizing around the ICE building. I definitely see a need for direct action. I definitely see a need for nonviolent protest. I was frustrated that we were hearing from the city, well, if you guys want their permit pulled, how come nobody has filed any complaints yet? So myself and a couple other people made videos around this like, hey, you have to go and register a complaint if you want them to be investigated for having violations. And it appears that a lot of people did just that, which resulted in this investigation and then the citations being issued for violating their land use permit. When we are looking at resistance movements, y'all, we have to employ a multitude of strategies. I know that sometimes it feels like the system works really, really, really slow, too slow for the pace of what the regime is trying to do. And I know sometimes it feels like, well, you know, the wheels of bureaucracy grind too slowly, and also they're not going to grind in our favor. It can feel hopeless, but we have to we have to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, right? We have to try every strategy that is available to us. Using the tools of the system is important. If they are in violation of their permit, then we need to pursue that avenue. And I'm so glad that folks in Portland did just that. And I'm glad to see that the city took it seriously. And I'm glad to see the result thus far. It doesn't mean the ICE facility is closed down as of yet. Later in the day yesterday, Keith Wilson, Portland's mayor, issued this statement.
Hello, I'm Keith Wilson, Portland's mayor. I'm here to share an important update about the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Facility in Southwest Portland. Following a formal investigation into the facility's detention practices, the City of Portland will soon issue a notice of land use violation. Federal records show that ICE violated its land use conditions of approval 25 times in 10 months by detaining people for more than 12 hours or keeping them overnight. I'm here to thank our community for shining a light on these concerns and to thank our staff for conducting a thorough and thoughtful review. I want to be clear about what this means. This is just one step in a formal process. The outcome is not a foregone conclusion, and the federal government will be given an opportunity to respond. However, we must remember this review was triggered by the federal government's breaking promises to our community regarding the detention of human beings. Whatever comes of this process, I hope you will join me in celebrating and supporting Portland's immigrant community and standing in solidarity with all those who've been impacted by the actions of the federal government in recent days.
So the takeaway here is that this is a first step. It doesn't mean that the ICE facility is going to close. It does mean that the people of Portland, Oregon are engaged in sustained resistance against the American Gestapo known as ICE. This is costing the regime time, resources. They have to put lawyers on this. They have to go through this process. Anything we can do to slow the roll of fascism, that is a just and worthy and effective thing to do. Just because as of yet that facility is not closed down, that doesn't mean that what is happening now is not a victory. It is causing the regime to use resources and it is slowing them down. I also want to make it clear, it doesn't mean that just because these violations are going to be issued that it's like, okay, we did the thing and now we can move on to something else, or now we can rest on our laurels. Councilor Murillo said that her office is working on some other strategies, and I want to highlight those in just a second because y'all, the regime is coming at us from all angles, right? They are doing this shock and awe. They are trying to dismantle every part of American society and a functional government. And we too have to use a diversity and multiplicity of tactics in order to stop the fascists. So we have to use every avenue that is available to us to defend our rights and defend democracy. Here's a couple of things from Councilor Murillo's office.
I've spoken before about how the supremacy clause really impacts how we are able to regulate ICE at the local level. And so I want to share with you 3 different policies that my office is working on that creatively get around the supremacy clause issue. One of my policies disincentivizes landlords from leasing to ICE or to other detention facilities by creating a fee system where the city incurs a different cost and debt every time a detention facility opens because it is politically chaotic, right? The city ends up having to pay for more policing. The city ends up having to pay for environmental cleanup because of all of the tear gas. There are disruptions to transit, all sorts of things that end up costing us a lot of money. So if you are a landlord and you are choosing to open a detention facility with a government contractor, then you are going to have to pay whatever it costs for the city to do that cleanup, that extra policing, etc., to the city of Portland. No one should be profiting from human suffering, and unfortunately we live in a society that does incentivize that, but I'm hoping that this policy will be one piece to chip away at that. I believe that the next frontier of fighting fascism in the 21st century is going to be through stopping mass surveillance, and we know that ICE has really been beefing up their capabilities with regards to mass tracking and surveillance both of activists and of immigrants themselves. He says hello. ICE has been using traffic cameras and data from companies that are willing to sell all of your personal information to map out people's lives, who you connect with, where you drop your kids off to school, what protests you attend, and if you're an immigrant, tracking you even more closely than that. So our data privacy is going to be the next frontier of making sure that we can actually express ourselves and protect our immigrant community and not be heavily surveilled or policed because of it. The final policy my office is bringing forward will be to prevent private security to be used to detain immigrants, thus helping ICE until they're able to come pick them up. So we're hoping that we can't regulate the federal government, but we can ensure that private security are only enforcing local and state laws, and our local laws have sanctuary city protection.
Thank you, Councilor Murillo. I completely agree with everything that you said there and support your office working on those different policies. I especially want to point out the first one, which is that taxpayer dollars are subsidizing these wealthy landlords and these for-profit businesses that run facilities like the ICE building on Macadam Avenue. You want to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. You want to talk about Portlanders who are frustrated at their tax dollars being spent on things that they don't think are worthwhile. Why is it that our public money is being used to clean up ICE's tear gas residue? Why is it our public money is being used to protect the watershed when it is ICE that is polluting it? Why is it that we have to pay for the policing that is required when a facility like this opens up in our community? These guys are already taking a tremendous amount of our tax money to terrorize our immigrant neighbors, disrupt our communities, and absolutely make cities all across the country far less livable. And yet our local tax dollars are also being used to further subsidize those efforts so that wealthy landlords and for-profit companies that are in the business of terrorizing immigrants can do their job more easily and profit even more. Is that what we want our tax dollars going toward? I really appreciate Councilor Murillo wanting to create policy around this issue. Anyway, that's the update for right now around the ICE facility in Portland, Oregon. We'll see what happens next.